Hi there, and welcome to another Scheepjes Blogger interview. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Nerissa from MissNeriss.com. We met a few years ago, and I'm so happy that we finally get to connect once again. So Nerissa, welcome. So great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. It's so good to see you. It's been a little while.
We met in person for the first time at Yarndale, yeah.
And of course, I do have to just acknowledge in the background there, you're not alone. I do see Miss Rosie in the background as well.
Yes, there's Rosie. She makes us up. That's her favourite place in the whole house.
Also got Pebbles around here as well. So she may pop up and say hello.
Yeah, they can talk to one another. Lots of sniffing.
So Nerissa, for the people that maybe aren't familiar with your work and the designing and the whole creativity aspect to your crafting, would you mind to do a quick introduction to the new people watching and just tell them who you are, what you do, how you like to craft?
Well, so I'm Nerissa. I grew up on a farm in country Australia, and I have lived wool basically my entire life, right? Growing up on a farm, we had, I don't remember how many thousands of sheep, but we had thousands of sheep. And my dad is also a wool classer, which, for those of you who are not familiar, a wool classer is the person who tests the quality of a wool in the shearing shed. So the fleece comes off the sheep and then it's cleaned up. And then my dad would then be the one who checks to make sure and classifies where that wool goes, whether it's going to be making suits or carpet, and everything in between, right? That's what my dad does for a living. And so as I grew older, I traveled around in the bush with my dad, working with him actually in different shearing sheds. So I've seen lots of Australia that most people who visit Australia would never even think about visiting. So towns with one person that live there. One person and a phone box. Those sorts of places. Really, really outback Australia. Yeah. And craft-wise, I don't even remember really learning to craft, because growing up on a farm in the 80s and before, and I'm sure it's very similar still, it's just part of your everyday, right? I know my grandma taught me how to knit as a small child, but I don't remember the actual learning of it. She tells me that she didn't teach me how to crochet because I'm left-handed, and she didn't have the patience to teach me that. So she outsourced that job to a neighbor. And of course, she also had a spinning wheel in her sunroom. And so that was always there and it was a basket full of wool straight from the sheep, that I didn't know that carding and washing and combing wool was a thing until I got really involved in crafting as an older person. It was raw fleece that we would just be feeding into the spinning wheel, and everybody in my family from my dad's generation would knit their own jumpers. Even my dad can knit.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he has knitted jumpers that he's made when he was younger. So it's really in our DNA, I guess. But crochet is where my heart is. I love to crochet because I love the way that you can create something easily and you have very little fear of when it goes wrong that you might never be able to fix it. And knitting, unless you're really quite skilled, that can be quite terrifying, I do remember knitting when I was still quite small, knitting a scarf that was, the sides were very wobbly, and it was using huge long needles, knitting with mohair. And who honestly would let a child loose with a ball of mohair to knit a scarf? That's just absolutely insane.
Wow.
So it was the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life, but I loved it.
Fantastic. So, I mean, crafting, and especially crafting with wool, has been a massive part of your life by the sounds of things, like really core to your family as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So crochet, knitting, I've just learned that you can spin as well, which is,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I was a spinner, but I definitely know how to spin. And it looked a lot differently when I was growing up as well. You didn't have these fancy double treadle pedals and all of that modern spinning tools. We just didn't have those when I was younger, back in my day. 11 million years ago.
I will say, just on the spinning note, I gave it a go a little while ago, and very difficult. The
Yeah.
coordination, I thought I'd be quite good. Coordination's okay, but nope. I really struggle with that.
It's next level, right? It's like the rubbing your tummy while patting your head challenge times 1,000. Yeah, it's really challenging. But once you get the rhythm, it's soothing and really pleasurable.
Nice. Well, I take my hat off to people that can do that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's a real skill. Yeah.
So you mentioned crochet, you know, is really your passion. And you mentioned that the idea around it's slightly more forgiving.
Yeah.
So crochet, did that start around the same time as you learning to knit, or did you pick up the crochet hook later in life?
Well, I don't really remember, to be perfectly honest. It was just something that I've always been able to do. And it was only when I was pregnant with my daughter, so in the late stages of pregnancy, that I was visiting a friend and she was crocheting a blanket for her. She was also pregnant. We were pregnant together. And I looked at it and I said, I can do that. I know how to crochet. Completely forgotten. I hadn't crocheted for years. I completely forgotten. And so together we went to the local yarn store and I thought, oh, am I going to make a blanket for my baby before she's born? And it was because I was heading into that nesting phase of pregnancy. And I mean, obviously you haven't been pregnant yourself, but there's this drive that you need to be doing certain things to build your nest, nesting. But I was severely averse to actually cleaning anything. So I turned to crochet. And so I went into the local yarn store and I bought some baby yarn, the pastel acrylic yarns that you find in all the stores. And then I picked out a crochet hook, and picking out that crochet hook was purely based on the fact that I thought it was cool. It was one of those anti-spin ergonomic hooks, right? And or not sweet, I don't know what it's called, those ergonomic hooks. And it was blue. It was just sheer luck that it was the right size for the yarn that I had bought. And I made a blanket, and it was also very ugly because my skills weren't fantastic. But I made a blanket and it was great. But I was hooked. I didn't put my crochet hook down. It's been my daughter's turning 10 very soon. So it's been a solid 10 years of having a constant crochet, or sometimes knit, but mostly crochet project on the go for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So your daughter kind of knows you as the crocheter.
Doesn't
know you prior to picking up the hook again.
I think I started blogging for crochet in 2013, early 14. I can't really remember actually when I picked it up, but I was crocheting away happily for myself, making amigurumis and making little blankets and hats and those sorts of things that you do for small children, because that was my life. And then friends would ask me to make things for them as well, make little crochet loveys for their babies or babies who were being born. So I was selling those a little bit. And then a friend of mine convinced me to start a blog, because I'd been blogging before that. I already had a blog. I was blogging about my expat life living in the Netherlands as an Australian. And so it was an easy switch just to start writing a crochet blog, essentially, about my projects and that. And then it naturally evolved into a design phase. So I started designing as well, because I just liked the creative outlet that it gave me. So the blog and then the design were sort of hand in hand. And then I was approached by Scheepjes in 2014, and we started the blogger relationship, and it's been a wonderful journey.
Oh, fantastic. So on that note, the bloggers, how does that work for you? How do the bloggers kind of fit into your life in terms of connecting over creativity and the support around the group? Do you have a lot of interaction with one another and kind of bounce ideas off each other?
Absolutely. These people are my family, essentially. They're my crafty family. We talk to each other really regularly, bouncing off ideas, like you say, talking about their struggles with getting hold of the yarn that we might need to, thanks for the pandemic crisis and supply chain crisis. That's always challenging. Talk about how designs are not working. Talking about how designs are being stolen as well, finding designs popping up on random websites all over the place in other languages. where they've just ripped the entire content from the website. You know, also, and then we all band together and fight those sites as much as we can. Yeah, exactly. You know, we talk about all the issues that face us as designers and people, right? We're really invested in one another's lives, not just as crafters and designers, but as people.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I consider the other bloggers that work with Scheepjes to be my crafty family.
Oh, lovely. I mean, that kind of sense of as you said, kind of community and family, crafty family around the bloggers group sounds so special. I know that in our previous videos, Martin and Deirdre, Tatiana and Carmen had also mentioned the kind of connection that you all have.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's really special. I don't think you necessarily find it everywhere, you know, so I really value that, and I would miss it if it wasn't there. So I'm very grateful that I have those people in my life.
Fantastic. And of course, nicely linked to Scheepjes as a company. I do have to ask, because I've pretty much asked every blogger, what's your favorite yarn? What's your favorite?
Oh, Matt. No, that's not fair.
Put you on the spot there.
No, okay. So, oh, really? You have to choose? Okay. Look, it's easy to say stonewashed. I love stonewashed. I have a very special relationship with the stonewashed and the river wash yarns. I've made some of my favorite designs with those. I mean, I love the whirl. I love the color change. I remember when we talked about it for years before it emerged. You know, what we would love to see is this long gradient yarn. We want to see a long gradient yarn. And then one day they brought it out, and that one day
it was there.
It was just the best, the most special thing. I also loved Our Tribe. I was so excited to be able to choose my own colorway. Oh, but choosing a favorite, oh, Matt, that's not fair. I can't.
I mean, that was quite mean, and I see what you've done there. You've listed all of their yarns under an umbrella.
There you go. So, but if I had to choose a top three, I can't say one, but I would say top three for me: Stonewashed, Whirl, and Our Tribe are my favorites.
Brilliant.
But then special mention to Metropolis, Katona. Oh, Callista, Katona, the most versatile yarn. It's perfect. See, and Callista, those are fabulous amigurumi yarns. I just love them. I can't.
Nerissa, are you on the website at the moment reading down the list?
No.
Love it.
I do. I just know them all by heart. I love them. Yeah.
So a lot of favorites there. Now you mentioned Our Tribe as a yarn. Now this, of course, is quite a special yarn in terms of it kind of being the if I'm allowed to call it the bloggers yarn. Each of the bloggers was able to come up with a colorway, and would you mind just to talk about how that process was? And also, of course, your colorway. I see you've got a couple of balls in the background of.
Yeah, I have. They're proud of place in my office. So everybody that I speak to every day gets to see them. But I have a ball. I also have a ball with me. Brilliant. Because I just love it.
Look at this.
I just love it. We had a bloggers weekend, and they would like us. The Scheepjes team would like us as a group to design our own colorways for this new yarn that they were planning to launch. And I'm not going to lie, I was so overwhelmed, Matt, that I just burst into tears. It was the most overwhelming thing. The feeling of gratitude and honor and trust that Scheepjes had put into us as a group, and the faith that they had in us that we could design something really special. And when it came down to it, it was the easiest thing that I think I've ever had to do in my life, because the colors I chose, you can see if we look at them, they're really soft pastels.
Lovely.
It goes from blue, there's a little bit of yellow and into pink and a purple sort of gradient. And what I wanted was this pastel sort of winter sunset colorway. You know,
nice.
I spent a lot of time living my life around the sunrise and the sunset. So, and I love the colors all through the year, the different hues that you have with the sunrise and sunset. And I'm a freak for the pastel tones. And so it was really simple. Okay, this is the image I have in my mind. And then we had literally a mountain of paint chips, the little color cards. Yeah. And it was then putting them together. So I just had to then rummage around and find the right set of 5 paint chips that would make my gradient. And
oh, wow.
I think that the whole process end to end took me less than half an hour, right? From once I dried my eyes and composed myself again to here's my colorway. Oh my God, that's done.
Brilliant. And so when you finally received the first ball of yarn that was your colorway, how was that for you? How was that?
The overwhelm, it was just amazing. I was just so excited, and it was better than my wildest imagination. I really could never have pictured it to be as beautiful as it is. I just love it. And I know that you and I both have similar colors, right? So, yeah. I think we speak the same color language.
Do you know, that was really interesting. It was, for me as well, that was a very quick impulse in terms of what colors am I drawn to. And for me, it's turquoise and pink. Like, I don't know why, that combination I just love.
Me too.
And our colorways very similar, aren't they?
I would love to make an Our Tribe, My Tribe shawl, actually. It's one of my shawls that I made using multiple colorways from that Our Tribe yarn set. I would love to put our two together to make that something that's on my to-do list.
Wow, that is definitely a great project for the future.
Yeah, I have a version that I made for using other colors. I'll show you.
Oh, I'd love to. Yes.
Because I did make one that was a solid with a shawl just with my color, and then I made another one. I made 2 others with different colorways. I'll just move back so we can see it on the screen quite well. This is the color here. These are 3. This is 3 different colorways, right? So we have, and I have to remember the 3 different colorways we have that I chose because I don't. I think this one is felted button, and I think this one is Carmen. This is New Leaf, I think, and I think this last one is it's Curio Crafting. This is Krista, I think. So that because it's been a while since I wrote down what I chose, but it's really nice. And I made another one with Yelena's and Deirdre's and who was the other? The other was, I think, was Rachel's. I think those 3 colors. And there's this magical, I think it comes back to the blogger bond, right? There's this magic that happens with this Our Tribe yarn that they all just work. You know, that fade, this fade is really just, you know, it could be one yarn almost, right? It's just, it works so well. All of these colors there's just this special magic with all of these yarns.
Oh, wow. I mean, what a special thing though, to have the bloggers group, but then all get to create your colorway of yarn. I mean, wow. And
I know.
You're doing great things with it. So it's really amazing to see the complete process, picking colors through to creation. Creating though is of course something you do a lot of. You've got some extraordinary patterns out there. A few of them I'd love just to mention. I've got some of the yarn bookazines next to me right here. A few of my personal favorites, and I'd love it if you could just talk about a couple of them. Now, this is the tropical edition of Yarn Bookazine. So if you don't have this, go pick up a copy because it's amazing. And Nerissa has this fantastic shawl, which is actually, it's on the back cover there, isn't it?
It is, that's right, yeah.
On the back cover. It's just amazing. The Pina Colada shawl. Look at that. Now tell me about this, because this is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have it here actually, as Chance would have it.
Oh, look! I
have the actual
one I made earlier.
Yeah, that's right. I have the actual shawl here with me. So it is just absolutely the most fabulous thing.
Oh wow!
So I'll just go back and move backwards a little bit so we can see. I don't know. I can show it to you in a little bit later. And you can see how I constructed it, going backwards and forwards and working the short rows. And you can see how it's rounded. The edges are all rounded.
It's because the key is making sure you offset your increases when you're making these. And you can see how beautiful the colors are and how it's really inspired by the sunrise and the sunset at Uluru.
I'm really strongly influenced by the sunrise and the sunset, and this year was really heavily influenced as well by the sunset. And when I still lived in Australia, I worked as a tour guide, and I would take tours to and from Uluru, which is right in Central Australia, and it's famous for the sunrise and the sunset. And so I wanted to make this half moon shaped shawl that was in this sunset color that felt like the sunset at Uluru. And I came up with the ideas of building in some short rows. So you can see it's 2 colors working to, and this this yarn is Secret Garden. So it has a really heavy texture, and also, a silky warm texture as well. But it was really influenced by the sunset at Uluru. So even though it's in a tropical issue, and its home is in the desert.
It's so nice to hear those kind of backstories as well, though, behind the design. So as you mentioned, in the tropical issue, but actually kind of the heart of it's in the desert. Really nice. Now there's a few other, Pebbles is popping up to say hello.
Hi, Pebbles.
Some of the other designs that you've got, one of my real favorites is actually one of the ones that you've done most recently, but I do want to touch on another one because quite fond of this one. In Dutch Masters, you came up with this lovely vest in Dutch Masters.
I loved this as well. This one is made using merino soft. So again, it's quite heavy and warm because it's, that's really, really luxurious and wearable, you can really wear it. So I made it, it is designed for a man, was modeled for a man, but I can also wear it. So I've been thinking about taking the sample and either adjusting the sample to make it a little bit shorter to fit my own body, or to make another one, can also do that and adapt to the pattern. So the sleeves and the V all fit fine. It's just a little bit too long for me as a wearable, but this is something I wanted to make for my husband. So because he was wanting to have a vest as well, and it just happened to fit the right timing for the Dutch Masters. When we were coming around to pitching ideas, I said, I have the perfect idea.
I have the perfect idea. Love it. But just look at this here. I mean, of course, the photography is gorgeous, but the design is amazing.
I know.
Still something I will say that I sometimes handmade designs, I still feel there is a lack sometimes to male wearables. And this, especially now, vest tops are so popular at the moment. This is one of those designs that is up there on the kind of thing that I would love to make myself. It's really
that's really great. I would love to see that. And I think my brain starts to fire immediately with ideas, thinking, this would also be really cool and probably quite easy to convert into a color work project to make it to something into an Argyle style pattern, which is also quite fashionable at the moment. Also be fun to think about.
Well, it's certainly another one for the list, isn't it?
The list. I swear, the list.
The growing list.
Don't even want to think about what's on the list.
So Nerissa, the final yarn Bookazine design I'd love to kind of touch on is from the most recent yarn Bookazine, the Romance edition, which I've got just here. You've done this absolutely fabulous design, the Sidal scarf. Now I know we spoke off camera about the kind of design process, and it was quite a task for you. You mentioned. Would you mind just to explain to the viewers?
Sure, absolutely. It was an absolute labor of love, this project. I knew from the start that I wanted to make a motif that was using the fleur-de-lis style, and what I then needed to find was actually how to make that in yarn, essentially, how to make that work in a tapestry crochet. So because the Sidal scarf is made using 2 colors of one strand of mohair, the mohair rhythm, and one strand of the alpaca rhythm. So it's the contrasting colors and yarns as well. So I would then, I worked out that you could draw the motif, and then I had to figure out the stitches around it, the stitch count. I had to map all of that out. I did it all on my iPad, the making the grid, and then I built a larger format of that, and then I needed to cut it down to get this one motif repeat set. And so then I may lay that out together. Essentially, I made 13 long repeats of this motif to become one row is 150 centimeters approximately long, maybe even longer. And then I was multiplied by 4 repeats high, I should say. And so it's this huge thing, and it's not too, I don't want to deter anybody. It's lace weight yarn as well. So it was really a lengthy process. I think it was one of the most intense design projects of my life. I loved absolutely making the design, but I didn't love the process at every moment because it was really challenging. But everything that's worth doing well, is a challenge, right? You need to be able to struggle to see the success at the end. I think makes it all the sweeter. So it was really, and it turned out to be extraordinarily beautiful. I love the 2 colorways that we came up with in the end, the 2 shades of burgundy and then also the blues with the turquoise, just absolutely stunning. I'm really so proud of myself with that design. I loved it.
I mean, we're also very, very proud of you. I mean, I've got the Bookazine here. The model is wearing this and looks absolutely stunning and really showcases the design there. Now, Nerissa, I know that you've got one of your scarves at home there, and you've prepared a little video for us. So let's take a closer look at the Sidal scarf as you explain in a little more detail about the design.
If you look closer, you can see the fleur-de-lis motif. And when I constructed this, I would made the motif to be about like this. So it would capture, the repeat would capture the full fleur-de-lis, and then it would have just the edges of each one. And so by repeating, it would capture and build the pattern that we have. And so it's really long. I have to step back so you can see, and then it can wind around and around. And the mohair and alpaca blends together, so it make it really beautiful and really warm. So the dark blue fleur-de-lis is with the mohair rhythm, and the lighter blue is with the alpaca rhythm.
Oh, that was so fantastic to see the scarf up close. Some of your other designs, Nerissa, one that I actually made for my mum a few years ago was the RainBOOM shawl. Was a great make, which uses, of course, one of your favorite yarns, the Stonewash, Riverwash color sets. Would you mind to explain a little bit about this design? Because I know it's a favorite of yours also.
Yeah, it really is. I wanted to make a design with that color pack that used basically every centimeter that I could possibly get out of the box. And I wanted to do something a little bit different. I didn't want to make a rainbow shape because I didn't think that was going to use the yarn to its best advantage. So I tried to figure out a way to really make the most of it. And what happened was I ended up coming up with 2 triangles that I flipped to to turn into is it a rhombus? Is that shape? A parallelogram?
Yeah.
And then I stretched it by adding the colors in between. So I started at both ends. I repacked my color pack into the gradient order that I wanted, the proper official rainbow that my daughter would approve of, because she's very strict on her rainbows. So I repacked the color packet into that order. And so I started at both ends essentially, and I made a triangle from the starting at the pink end and a triangle starting at the black end, and then once they were the right size, I joined the two in the middle, worked through the blues and the greens through the middle, and it was really fun to make. And it was also a challenge because I wanted to use every last bit of yarn. So yarn chicken is real with this pattern, right? It is real. You know, some people weren't not able to make the full 3 rows, couldn't quite match the tension.
Yeah.
You know, it can be a challenge. And some of the yarns have slightly more meterage per gram than others, I think because of potentially the fuzz. So, you know, it was challenging, but we got there, and there are thousands of RainBOOMs around, you know, about thousands. I even saw a picture in the local paper of somebody wearing a RainBOOM. It was just blew my mind. It was the most exciting thing to see somebody I didn't know wearing one of my designs out in the wild.
Now, this was done as a make-along. That's
right.
With the Scheepjes community. How was that for you to kind of have that as a group design activity?
It was the most uplifting experience. You know, I was extremely nervous beforehand because you're putting a piece of yourself out there to a really massive audience. There are tens of thousands of people potentially viewing my design and accessing it and even making it. You know, thousands of people were making this design, and the idea of it was really anxiety inducing, but the reward was so amazing because people were overwhelmingly positive. We had our challenges with the yarn chicken, of course. You know, some people were not able to, but we came up with solutions for everyone. And I needed to think creatively and pivot for these people to be able to make sure that they could get the best result from the yarn packs that they had and the design that I had made for them. And it worked out wonderfully. Plus, we hosted it while I was turning 40 in my birthday month, and I spent my birthday in New York City. And so I took my RainBOOM with me to New York, and I was showing it off to the group. Look, here's me at the Empire State Building. Here's me at the Statue of Liberty. Here's the RainBOOM out and about in New York City. It was really fun. I loved it.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. Again, I'd love to take a little closer look at the RainBOOM shawl. So we're going to pop another little video in here where you just talk through that, and we can really see that up close. As I said, I've had the privilege of making this design to gift to my mum. It was very well received. She loved it. And she just know the RainBOOM shawl is marched around Wiltshire here in England.
Oh, fabulous. I'd love to see her. She pops over to Stonehenge one day. I'd love to see her. And she just pops down the road. She can take a picture for me so I can see RainBOOM at Stonehenge.
Brilliant. Let's take a look at that video.
Sure.
This is the RainBOOM. This is my favorite. I love this so much. You can see when I made this, I made into the first triangle here to this yellow. And so that was one piece. And then I started working from the other end of the color box, and I made a second triangle here until this blue. So that's the end of that. And then I made the middle piece, which I started working from one end until I worked all the way the rows back and forth into the middle. And so here we go between here, and then I joined the last piece and added the fringe at the ends, with the leftovers. So there was really almost nothing left of the entire stone washed, river washed color pack.
Brilliant. So there was the fabulous RainBOOM shawl that Nerissa has created. Really gorgeous. Love seeing that up close.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned, as you were describing the RainBOOM project, you mentioned about pivoting with your designs and being, I guess, being adaptable in the process. Now, I know we've had a little chat off camera, and you mentioned that this is something that's really kind of important to you and also your design process.
In my day-to-day job, I work in the tech industry. And I work in product management, and a really key skill that a person in project management has to have is the ability to be agile and make changes based on what's working and what doesn't work.
Those of us that aren't familiar with the word and the use of the word agile, when we're creating. Would you care to explain a little bit more about that idea?
Sure. It's really a framework that we use in software development. And quite simply, traditionally, you would get a spec, for what you wanted to build, and then you would build it, and then you would share it with the customer, and the customer would say, love it, or no, this is fundamentally wrong. We need to start over. And so you've invested all that time. With Agile, you work in small chunks. So essentially, you make a small piece, you share it with your customer, they say yes or no, we like it, we hate it, and then we move on. So you are not spending so much time, effort, or money. And when you convert that into the crafty, creative, designing world, say you're making a hat, instead of making the entire hat and then trying it on and realizing that it's way too big, you can, partway through the process, you get to the size, you think, okay, this works, okay, no, wait, it's too big, I can make it smaller, so I can reduce it. And then that's an agile way of making a hat, for example. Okay,
makes perfect sense. Thank you.
And that works really hand in hand with being a crochet designer, a designer in general, but especially in yarn design. You really need to be able to say, okay, I'm partway into this design, it's not working. You know what, I'm going to make it, I'm going to change. For example, when I was making the RainBOOM, I started making it, I'd made that parallelogram, but then it wasn't really showing me what I needed to, it wasn't really giving me what I needed. I thought, this is great, but it's not functional. What I did was I pulled it all apart and I made those middle rows. And so I made it longer, and then it became a really functional, wearable, beautiful piece that you could have in your wardrobe every day. And if I had been married to that square initially, it would have been worthless because it wasn't big enough to be a throw. It wasn't big enough to wrap around and be a scarf or a wrap. It was really just a pretty square. So by reevaluating and not going all the way back to the drawing board, because I didn't have to throw it in the bin and start over, I was able to make a change partway through, and I made it into something even more beautiful than my initial thought process. So that's a really important thing, because working in tech, you need to be able to work in that way as well, because you often find that you get to the end of a process and it's not working, but you've spent thousands of hours and dollars to get there, and you can throw all of that money in the bin, essentially. And so finding out early on in the stage of design really makes a big difference to the success that you might have at the end.
Wow. I mean, I love hearing your approach, I guess, to design. It being in such a technical way kind of really adds a new dimension to, I guess, the functionality of the projects. Also, just the consideration behind the functionality, and as you mentioned, being able to adapt is a really great way to look at projects.
Yeah. It's beneficial in the end. Being able to be agile in your thinking really pays off, I find. So I like to say, in my day-to-day life, I like to say that I bring creativity to agile, but now I can flip that script and say I'm bringing agile to creativity as well.
Wow, look at that. And trademark.
You heard it here first.
Fantastic. Now, you've got a couple of other designs as well, which, well, I'm sure most of your designs kind of live up to this approach, but you had mentioned that you'd created a cardigan, which certainly has this functionality at its core, at its baseline. Would you mind to share that one with us?
Absolutely. So it's a really fun project that I made. I think it might have been the end of 2018. I made this a project using the Namaste yarn, the snuggly, beautiful Namaste, and I wanted to make a cardigan, and I wanted this cardigan to be worn by everybody. So, but I'm also lazy, so I didn't want to have to do all of the grading, because the grading part of design is not my favorite part. Yeah. So I wanted to basically make a design that could be easily adapted or didn't need to be adapted at all. So anybody from no matter where you sit on the size spectrum could wear this cardigan. And so I came up with what I eventually named Olaf the Warm Snug,
Fantastic.
I mean, I was living the frozen world, the small child, so everything came back to frozen at that point. And it worked out really well. So I made this cardigan that I could wear then, and I have the same cardigan that I can wear now. So the difference between myself in 2018 and now is about 50 kilograms. And so that it fit me really beautifully then, and it fits me really beautifully now. So it's a testament to me, just to think about when you're designing ways that you can be inclusive for everybody. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to always be creating patterns that are graded from XXS through to 5XL. You can think about this in other creative ways as well. So that's something I'd like to show you. If we can. I can show you some. I don't have any video footage of then, but I do have some photographs I can share.
Fantastic. Let's pop those photographs into the video now and take a look, because would love to see just the functionality of it.
Okay, so here is Olaf the warm shrug. So you can see what it looks like on the video on my body now, and in the photos you can see how it looked on the larger body. Exactly the same garment without any changes can be made to fit a real variety of sizes. And I just use a shawl pin to close it, so it's really easy. You don't need any buttons. It can stay open, it can be wrapped around. It really is like a warm hug.
Well, Nerissa, you have really outdone yourself there with that design, and really showcased how versatile you can be with a design. So great to see.
Thanks, it's really enjoyable, yeah.
Yeah. Now, so many great designs you've shown us today, and with the videos also you've created and that we're sharing. But I do have to ask before we go, what is next for Nerissa as a designer?
Well, next up, I'm sticking with this functionality theme. So I recently just bought a beautiful new dress, and what's missing in my wardrobe from this dress, it's this beautiful pink dress. You can see it actually in my Instagram highlights. I do sometimes an outfit of the day series where I just share my fun clothes and shoes that I wear.
I will say I love watching these. You've got some amazing shoes as well. Your shoes are fantastic.
I know, I love my shoes. Also, most of the clothes that I buy these days are secondhand. I really like to keep that circular economy going. But when I was buying this dress, I had the perfect matching shoes. So it's pink head to toe. But what was missing was a belt. I don't have a pink belt. So I tried it on with a black belt, but it just took away. So what I thought it was, now how can I solve this? I'm going to solve this by making my own belt. So I started that process. I can show you. I have here, really simple wide waist belt, and it's not going to have a buckle. It's not going to have anything exciting. What I'm planning on doing is, once it's finished, thinking about some surface stitching to add some embellishment, and I'm going to close it using a shawl pin. So that's
fantastic.
It's really simple. The stuff, and this was all stuff that I have in my stash. This is Katona, right? We love the Katona. It's really Katona. And this is one single mini ball, I think, or it might be a regular ball. I'm not sure, but it's a single ball. And of course, because I want to make things functional for everybody, one ball is of Katona in this width fits me. And so we can then make that less than a ball fits somebody smaller than me. We can add a ball to make it fit somebody who's larger than me. And all you need to look around in your cupboard, most of us who are crafty people have shawl pins, right? You know, that's can open a drawer and a million of them fall out. So that's something that's that's working away in my brain right now. And I'm also working on a shawl design, a shawl series actually, using a sort of Fibonacci method. I think that's what we might say, since we're talking maths today and how skilled we are at maths. Using the Fibonacci sort of style, or maybe we can talk about it from exponential even, right? So instead of working your increases in the traditional increase each row, it's you work an increase you double your stitch count every few rows. So it's all mathematically worked out. So when your row count would, in theory, reach what it would need to be to double the stitch count, you then increase in every stitch, basically. Okay. And so to work in that way. And so I'm working on a basic model of that right now, so I can see what that looks like in different types of stitches. And then once I have that nailed down, I'm going to work on variations using different stitch patterns, so different stitch styles. I have one that I've been using, the V-stitch, for example, in panels, and also bearing in mind ways that you can be more economical with a single ball of yarn. Yep. So, you know, I want to be able to make my designs, as a rule, as functional and as inexpensive as possible, because not everybody has access to buying large quantities of luxurious yarn in one go. So I like to make my designs economical.
So really working with using the maths and playing around with the different kind of ways you can increase and using coming back to that agile framework, right? Thinking about, okay, so I have now done 16 rows. This yarn doesn't work, right? So I'm also experimenting with different yarn types that are in my stash. So I'm not going out and buying yarn specifically for the design. I'm working with what I have in my house. And so I've narrowing it down to different types of yarn that work and what doesn't work. And so we're heading there. It's looking like it might be a stonewash design. No, I don't know. I mean, I can't wait to see.
Yeah, it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I love it. It's a learning process as well, because it can break your brain. The maths can be really challenging, especially if you're a person like me who's not maths oriented.
Well, I mean, what are you talking about? I'm suddenly on Google going, is that a parallelogram or is that a rhombus?
And we still don't know, right?
We still don't know. It's the mystery of the interview today. Yeah. Nerissa, it has been so lovely catching up with you today. Also getting a glimpse into your creative life, your design life, as well as having a chit chat.
Yeah, it's been lovely to catch up. It's nice to be able to catch up with an old friend.
But really, it was such a pleasure to connect again, Nerissa, and lots of luck with your design and all the work that you're doing with your creativity.
Thanks, Matt. It was absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed my time today.
It was so fantastic to connect with Nerissa today. Now, if you'd like to see more of her work, please check out her blog at MissNeriss.com, and don't forget to give her a follow on Instagram at Miss__Neriss. And don't forget, you can also check out all of the other Scheepjes bloggers at www.scheepjes.com. So until next time, happy crafting!